Hi, my name's Jack Ellis and I lead agriculture and food research at Cleantech Group. Today I'm speaking to Stephanie Downs, who is the co-founder and CEO at UNCAGED Innovations. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, a pleasure to be here.
So Stephanie, let's start by helping our viewers to know what UNCAGED Innovations does. What does your company do?
So UNCAGED is a biomaterials company and we are developing a leather alternative. We brought some samples here today for the viewers to see. And our material is made out of grains, and in particular we use a lot of different type of agricultural waste streams that come from wheat, soy, corn, and rice. And so, so we're producing at scale and working with various large fashion and automotive companies.
Stephanie, could you explain for our viewers what is the sustainability problem or the unsustainability problem with the conventional leather and textile industries that you're looking to solve with your technology?
Yeah, so obviously leather is a textile that's been around for over 1,000 years, and a lot of people think of it as a natural component, but actually leather is essentially embalmed skin. It's a piece of material, it's a skin that has to be treated with highly toxic chemicals in order to keep it from breaking down. And actually it's treated with a chemical called chromium-6, which causes a lot of health issues in the communities around it. So there's those challenges of the toxicity. Also, it's becoming more and more aware, people are becoming more and more aware of the environmental impact of cattle farming and deforestation and other things, and leather is a very profitable component of a cow. And so there's just a lot of challenges that the fashion and automotive and leather industries that use leather are facing because of this. And so they're looking for alternatives, but unfortunately the only options that are really available at this time are synthetic leathers, which are much better for the planet still, but they are made of plastic. So the end of life for those solutions creates another challenge.
Thanks, Stephanie. Can you tell us a bit about how your technology actually works? So how are you converting those grain side streams into the materials that you've brought with you today?
Sure, yeah. I'll step back and talk a little bit about where the idea came from. So my co-founder in the venture, her name is Dr. Jacqueline Wang, and she's a biomedical engineer from Georgia Tech, and then she went on to work at Johns Hopkins, where she invented a way to make human corneal implants out of biomaterials. So she has a lot of understanding on how to make biomaterials function in a specific way. And a component of her work that was very important that led her well into UNCAGED was that she worked a lot with collagen, and collagen it's what your eyes are made of, and it's also what skin is made of. So whether you're a human or a crocodile or a cow, almost your entire skin is made of collagen. So we started with looking at what makes leather, and really looking at in the tanning industry, it's about a 20-step process, and each step uses different chemicals. And we looked at what's happening to that hide, what's happening to that giant chunk of collagen as it goes through the process, and why is each step important. And what she ultimately assessed was that what was important is that collagen is a protein, and proteins have very long amino acid chains. And so because that, when they take it through the tanning process, those amino acid chains can bind together and they create fibril structures that are very strong, and that's what gives leather the great properties that it has. So we kind of took that idea and thought, what other components are in nature could we utilize that could create similar fibril structures? And we settled on the idea of plant proteins, in particular grain proteins. And so we're using the proteins as the backbone. So again, that's components that are coming from wheat and soy and corn in particular. That's the backbone of the technology that creates the fibril structures. And then we fuse in other ingredients with what we call our biofuse technology, which is where we bring all the components together in specific orders and temperatures and process that fuses it in. So for example, this brown color here is created, and this brown color here in this wallet is created, the coloring comes from an ingredient called coffee cherry, which is the shell of a coffee bean that normally goes to waste, but we can grind that up and fuse it into the material. Some of the other coloring agents come from mineral pigments, which are rock pigments, so those are also naturally returned to the earth at the end of life. We also fuse in flower extracts to give the material different fragrances, which has been way more popular than I'd ever imagined. The brands really want to see about having their signature smell for this new type of material. And then we use different types of natural rubbers based on the type of hand feel that we want. So everything is bio-based, and so it's been a good sell into the brands and helping them solve their problems.
What are some of the companies or the types of companies that you've been partnering with then to get this product towards market? Yeah.
So we're mainly working with, as I said, fashion and automotive. There's a lot of interest from luxury fashion. I can say we are working with all of the large fashion houses. Because of NDAs, like I have to be careful what I talk about too much, but we are working with all the large fashion houses. But then we also get contacted by the fast fashion brands, the athletic brands. We're working with various large shoe brands. Actually, the chief sustainability officer from Nike just joined our board of directors. So there's a lot of demand in the footwear space. And then we're also working a lot with automotive. I can talk publicly about Jaguar Land Rover has actually invested twice in the venture, and so we're talking with other automotive players. So there's even automotive companies that have announced, like Tesla has completely banned leather, and then companies like Volvo have said they're phasing out all leather by 2030. So just the greenhouse gases from leather, even if you ignore everything that happens up to the slaughterhouse, the tanning process is very intense, and in comparison, our material will emit 95% less greenhouse gases than animal leather.
What has your personal and professional journey been, Stephanie, to get you to where you are today, leading UNCAGED Innovations?
Yeah, so my journey has actually been a long one that led me up to this, but I think the seed was originally planted, I always joke, back when I just started volunteering in an animal shelter in the year 2000. I just wanted to walk some dogs, and next thing I know, it sends me down this life journey. But so kind of a little bit on my background. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 25 years. This is my third venture. I started my first company in 1999, was a digital marketing company, which is not interesting today, but at that time nobody knew what that was. And my biggest competitor was the Yellow Pages, which I love to look back on because, now, back then I used to have disagreements with people who would say to me, the internet will never replace the Yellow Pages. And so to look back on that now when brands say to me, well, we want to do this, but we'll always use leather, I'm like, we'll see about that. So it's a fun memory to look back on. So I had that company for 15 years. And then in 2007, I went vegan and I became very interested in the animal welfare movement. And I wanted to do something to give back, but not necessarily just hold a protest sign. I wanted to somehow use my skills and help in a different way. So I started helping animal welfare groups doing corporate outreach. So kind of going out and meeting with companies before a campaign or something would happen, and just doing a kind of a positive outreach effort of going and educating companies on the challenges with having animals in their supply chain, and most importantly, educating them on what solutions were available. So, this is 2008, and I'm taking them synthetic leather samples and faux furs and, the early days of like mushroom leathers and different things that were out there. So I kind of fell in love with this through that work. Like one of the projects I worked on was actually convincing Tesla to go all vegan in their car interiors. And so through that work, I really saw the power of alternatives, that if we could bring things to companies and consumers that were quality and decent price and scalable and such, that it really was a much easier way to implement change as opposed to just saying stop doing something. And so then after selling my first company, I started a plant-based meat company in India. Very long story as to how that ended up happening, but it was a great journey and big need for it there as meat consumption is really rising as the middle class is growing. And then I exited that company a few years later, and then I decided to start UNCAGED. And mainly I wanted to start this, so it was about 2019 when I was thinking about it, and I wanted to start it because I had been in the space because of the work I'd done for animal welfare groups and had seen other innovations trying to come to market or trying to grow for about a decade, and I was hearing from the industry that there were a lot of challenges. Things weren't scaling, performance was low, things were very expensive, but I knew the demand was only continuing to grow, and so I decided to throw my hat in the ring and see if we could develop an innovation to meet the mark.
Has that process of trying to convince prospective investors and prospective partners as well, has that been difficult? Do you need to do a lot of kind of education, awareness building around your technology to help them get to the place where they can understand its value?
Well, it's funny. If you'd asked me that question when I raised for my plant-based meat company or when I did the first raise for UNCAGED, I would have said, no, it's not so bad. But if you'd asked me as I was doing this last raise, I would say it nearly killed us. So yeah, so it's, it all depends on the timing, and the markets have changed a lot in the last 2 years as far as just VCs, really pulled back and things have just changed. And who knows what will come with the upcoming administration. But, fundraising is never easy, but I think it really helped that we're a very experienced entrepreneurial team. I'm unique in that I've actually ran a company before and exited a company, so you don't see that as often. But so yeah, it's definitely challenging, right? And then also the asks change, so it goes from in good times, it's more about IP and growth and run fast and break things. And then it becomes about commercial traction and contracts and sales. And so you just have to change with the times and adapt. But it was definitely not easy, but kind of I think the ones who can get through it are the ones that are going to last.
Thank you for your time, Stephanie.